On this week's episode of Sports Path, we've got some penalty kicks, girls and boys soccer highlights coming right up. Of course, we couldn't forget about volleyball. Tartan takes on Sibley in a close matchup. Some of the other games, not so close. And finally, Tartan goes deep in a big win over a district rival, the North St. Paul Polars. All that and more as we take you down the Sports Path. Hi everybody, and welcome to Sports Path. We got a jam-packed show for you tonight, and of course I'm all by myself. Sam Erickson once again isn't here. Kind of reminds you of springtime, doesn't it? But it's fall. We got a ton of highlights to show you, a lot of blowouts, but you know, we'll do what we can and show you those highlights. But first, let's get to the social media montage that we weren't able to get to in the first episode of Sports Path this year. Now, first up for the social media montage, we go to Twitter, where White Bear Lake Activities Director Brian Peliquin was out at a recent football game. Now, if you know anything about the White Bear Lake football program, the past few years, they've been very bad. You know, they haven't been the best, and Brian Peliquin was at their season opener. They had their first win in about 3 years to open the season this year. However, the Bears team has been a pleasant surprise. They won their first 2 games, and Brian was out the 3rd game against Eastridge. Now, the Bears didn't win against the Raptors, but Eastridge has been a historically decent team the last few years. A lot of guys going Division I to play football, including Seth Green for those Gophers. So losing by only 15 points isn't terrible. Great job by the Bears, and get excited to celebrate some more touchdowns this season, because we know there'll be plenty of those to come. Now, the next social media montage thing we head over to Grand Rapids Activities Twitter account. They got their hands on some new state tournament pucks for the boys and girls hockey tournaments this year. I know it's a little too early to start thinking about hockey, but this year the Minnesota State High School League will be celebrating its 75 years of boys hockey and 25 years of girls hockey. Should be a great season, and as always, and we hope that some of our Fab Four teams will get a chance to play with those pucks in the state tournament this year. But for now, let's get back over to fall sports, and that's all we have for the social media montage. I know you guys are itching to see some football highlights, so let's get right into it. We got Tartan versus North St. Paul, big District 622 rivalry. North St. Paul on offense, they will be during their first drive. Their first couple drives aren't very good, and that doesn't, offense doesn't last long. Brock Bertelson comes up with an interception to start the game. Pocket collapsed on sophomore quarterback Teaglin, and he just throws it right to Bertelson. So Tartan with great field position. Tim Owen will run the ball straight up the gut for a touchdown. Owen having a great season so far. It's 7-0 after the extra point. Now Brock Bertelson continues to make his presence known on defense. This time he gets his hands in there on a block punt, and that gives Tartan great field position on their second possession. This one, once again, ends up in a Tim Owen touchdown. Great camera angle here. You'll see him be able to keep his feet in bounds, getting past the defenders. Nice block by the wide receiver. That's 14-0. Titans up. Now Tartan defense on the third possession comes with a huge sack on 4th down, and this gives them great field position yet again. This time, Solomon Whalen goes to the air. This one to number 6, Dorian Singer. He just goes up and gets this one over the defender. North St. Paul will block the extra point, so there's something going. 20-0 Tartan. Now North St. Paul gets a big play late. This one goes to basketball star Langford Johnson, as Damian Johnson was on the sidelines. The basketball coach, and that's the play of the night for the Polars, as Tartan's really getting the best of them. Now near the end of the second quarter, Tartan comes up with a big pass for themselves. This one to Dante Agawamai. He'll be down at about the 2-yard line, and Owen will eventually be trying to get his 3rd touchdown of the night, but he's brought down the 1-yard line, and the ball will trickle out into the end zone. North St. Paul recovers the fumble in the end zone, and, they throw on that wrestling belt. I guess, I'd really save that one for, if they were close in this game, but they were absolutely brutal. Now Tartan double teams Langford Johnson, as that was all North St. Paul can do. Dorian Singer comes up with the interception on a play that might have put the Polars on the board, and that interception basically ends the first half with the 20-0 at 20-0. Now to start the second half, a turnover. Tartan has a bad snap, and North recovers the fumble. And guess who makes another appearance? Yes, that's the belt. Seriously, you guys are losing by 20. Keep your heads in the game. Now Tartan shows the Polars who's boss, this time with a 55-yard rushing touchdown. Tian Dang looks like he's going to get stopped in the backfield, but he'll boost this one all the way across the field. He's got some blocking ahead of him, and he'll eventually get on into the end zone with some great lead blocking. This game's 26-0. They'll get the 2-point conversion. It's 28-0. So North St. Paul will go for the long pass to DeJuan Carter, but that one's intercepted by Tartan by Derek Olson. He's tackled down at around the 8. Now Antoine Kimmons will eventually be running the ball, this time on the far side. He stays up with the Polars. Here's another interception by Teaglin. So the Polars will be on, the Titans will be on offense once again. As I talked about the basketball star, Kimmons gets the end around. He's got some blocking ahead of him, and this kid will not be stopped. He'll just keep breaking a couple tackles, Eventually gets pushed out at about the 3-yard line, and then right here, there'll be another touchdown. This one goes to Kimmons. That's 34-0. There was a missed extra point. Outstanding catch by Kimmons. Now a couple fumbles later, Singer has another big interception. That one goes too high. This one he brings all the way to the end zone. It's 41-0 after this extra point. Singer had a heck of a game. This kid was all over the field, defense, offense. He could do it all. And, that's one of the best defensive players out there for Tartan. So Tartan takes the win, 41-0 over 622 rival North St. Paul. Now let's take a look at the Suburban Gray standings. Where do they sit? We have a tie at the top. This one between 2 of our Fab 4 schools, between Matabidi and Tartan. Matabidi is 3-0, coming off a 39-12 win over the Pete Bursich-led Hill Murray Pioneers. Quarterback Jake Arlenson had 13 completion on 16 attempts, 158 yards, and 2 touchdown passes on the night. Matamidi does go on to play undefeated cadets of St. Thomas Academy this Friday, so that's going to be a big test. And, we just showed you how Tartan played on October 12th. Matamidi and Tartan have a showdown, which I think will likely decide the division champion in the Suburban Gray. Now let's take a little shift over to the Suburban Gold standings. North St. Paul's over in the Suburban Gold Conference. They're at the bottom of the standings as they are now 0-3 after that blowout loss at the hands of Tartan. Sophomore quarterback Teaglin has to really cut down on those turnovers in order for this team to have a chance at winning a game this year, as he had 6 in that game against Tartan. However, I will say this, I love the kid's game. He's got a fantastic arm. He stayed poised in the pocket. Give it a couple years. By senior year, him at quarterback, his dad turning this team around. Let's see what they got by the time he's a senior. Now let's take a look at our only team in the Metro East, White Bear Lake. They're in the Suburban Gold, and they come, or the Metro East, and they're 2-0 after not winning a game for almost 3 years. They lost a tough game and now sit at 2-1 after they lost to Eastridge. And then, like I said, they play Stillwater this Friday night. It's going to be a competitive match as Stillwater has a record of 1-2. I'll be on the call that game, so that's exciting. Now SEC's for our next bit. We got SEC's own Mike Peden. He's really been out and about to some of our Fab 4 schools. Well, this week Mike went in to check in with some Matamidi girls soccer players, and let's take a look as they try to make another run to the state tournament. This is Out and About with Mike Peden.
But Matamidi dangerous now in the attacking third. Sent across in front, too high, and score!
You can take a long glimpse of the Matamidi girls soccer team, but you won't find an obscure secret to their success. What you will discover is the definition of camaraderie.
It's the experience along with the ride of everything that happens, win and lose. You're all friends, you're a team, you work hard together, you condition together.
Just knowing that your teammates have your back, it gives you confidence to take risks on the field and, yeah, perform well.
Performance is rarely an issue for the Zephyrs, winners of the Class A state tournament a year ago. As with most champions, they're focused on moving forward, but their achievement did answer a big question.
We weren't sure if we were going to be good last year, and we just all worked together, we played together, and we came together as a team, and at the end, it worked out for us.
Lauren Heinch and Audrey Sexton are two of Matamidai's motors. This past summer, they traveled to Sweden with their club team, a journey they'll appreciate forever.
There are different girls that you got to play against that didn't speak the same language, so that was different because you weren't able to communicate with them. But we're all teenage girls, and it's the same soccer, same game.
You're not used to staying in a room with 13 other girls on a floor, so that was fun. And you really just bring back a bunch of new experiences that you can talk about for the rest of your life.
Stateside, Grace Paddleford is Matamidai's bookend. She scored the winning goal in last year's state tournament and the first goal of the 2018 season.
The last goal of the season that I scored was honestly probably one of the best things that I've done.
And Paddleford will have more goals to aim for next year at St. Cloud State.
I personally do not think I could have gotten any to the level I am without my coaches and the teammates that I've been with for so long.
The Zephyrs have encountered some turbulence against Class 2A teams, but discarding their potential in the Class A field would be unwise.
We are really strong up and down the line, and we are starting out rough, but we're working on it, and I think we're really going to come together.
A large reason for their confidence is a friendly culture.
Teammates are what you need, and you need other people to succeed. And here at Matamidai, every teammate and every girl that plays soccer here is just really great to work with.
In Matamidai, I'm Mike Peden for SEC Sports.
As always, we want to thank Mike for getting out and about to some of our Fab Four schools. But without further ado, let's take you to some soccer highlights. This one, Cretin-Durham Hall versus the Matamidai Zephyrs. This one took part in a matinee soccer game between those two teams. They put a lot of sweat equity in the game before. It was a hot one, and the Zephyrs hope to stay hot after a 5-1 win over North St. Paul. Now, following a Cretin takeaway, North Dakota commit Paige Goaly's on the move. She launches a deep ball that goes over the head of Megan Lasawi, and the Raiders score first. Now, Matamidai's keeper made some clutch plays at the net. Lasawi spots a loose ball, and pursuing goalie Lasawi wins the foot race to keep the score at 1-0. Now, I'll take you to the 40th minute. Paige Peltier gets an apparent push-off on Matamidai defender. That gives Notre Dame verbal commit possession, and she charges towards the goal. She lines up the shot. Lasawi gets a hand on it. And that one's right there. Now the Zephyrs had no shorter chances in this. Here's the free shot. The Zephyrs had no shorter chances in the second half. Audrey Sexton gets a free kick in the scoring range, but the Raiders blocked this one. And then that's Olivia Call makes it. A few minutes later, Sexton lines up for another free kick. Two players collide going for the touch, and Sonia Meyer ends up on Cretin's side, still 2-0. Sonia Sexton gets the third try at a free kick. This time it goes over the wall, but Calla stays with it for another stop. Despite multiple opportunities, Matamidai was blanked for the third time this season. Cretin picked up their third straight win. 2-0 is your final. Let's take a look at those Metro East standings. And after that nice win, let's see where Matamidai is in the standings. Currently, they are at the top with a 3-0 conference record, 6-4 overall. North St. Paul and Tartan not having great years. Take a look at the bottom of your screen, and that's where they are. Now let's see how White Bear Lake is doing we're going to show you some highlights as they go on to take on Roseville. This one will take place at White Bear Lake South Campus. Second game of the doubleheader. Jerry Otto again stepping up and helping out SEC. And some great shots here to start it out, but along with those great shots were a couple of great saves. As you can see right here, unfortunately for Roseville, they will eventually commit a penalty in the goalie box. So that's a penalty kick in the girls' game as well right here. Now Erica Townley gets an eye past the goalie's reach. Eventually right here, and this one will go in. That's a 1-0 lead for the Bears about 13 minutes in. Now I'll take you to about halfway through the first half. This one is a corner kick. It comes for White Bear. Courtney Crouch kicks a curving ball right into the net. Kayla Anderson gets the foot in, and the goal is officially credit to Anderson, but it would have gone in either way. 2-0 Bears. Now close to the end of the first half. Long pass here. This one goes to Anna Racine for White Bear. She outruns the defenders and will eventually kick this one right past the goalie. It was right at the goalie, but she misses it, and it's 3-0 White Bear Lake. Jump ahead to the end of the second half, and the ball be a little out of control near the goal. Eventually, Lauren Eckery kicks it in on the net, and that's a 4-0 lead. You know, White Bear team really looking great so far this season, and 4-0 will eventually be your final score. White Bear Lake gets the W against Roseville right here. White Bear Lake was seeded #1 in the section last year, knocked out by Mounds View. They look to get to state this year as the top team in their section. So let's take a look at where White Bear Lake sits in their standings. They're currently tied for second in the Suburban East with a 3-1 record. They are 7-3 overall. Junior forward Kayla Anderson is leading this team with 15 goals. You know, now let's switch over to the boys soccer standings. We're going to start out here with the Metro East standings, where North St. Paul is leading the pack with a 4-0 conference record and are 7-2 overall. Mahtomedi is not too far behind with a 2-1 conference record, 6-1 overall, but unfortunately for them, that one loss does come at the hands of North. Those two do not play again this year, so if North wins out, they win the conference. Tartan is at the bottom of the standings, so not a good year so far for that school on the male and female sides of the soccer spectrum. Let's get into some more highlights. This one, boys soccer, White Bear Lake South Campus. Once again, we got the Bears versus the Roseville Raiders. Thanks to Jerry Otto from CTV with the coverage. We are available to have these highlights. Now, eventually, a bouncy ball will go down the middle of Roseville's Youssef Abdallah. He'll eventually pick this one up, and he goes across the front of the net for the first goal of the game. Goalie tries to kick his leg out there. Wasn't enough. 1-0 Roseville about halfway through the first. Only a few seconds later, eventually we'll get a pass ahead of Roseville, and this one will go out to a centering feed to Noah Walter-Merriam. He sneaks it under the goalie for a 2-0 lead. Once again, the goalie just sticks his leg out there and he misses it. Now maybe a minute later, camera guy loses the ball. There will be a penalty on the left of your screen there, which will set up a penalty shot for Jorge Radia. And eventually he'll get the shot right there. This one goes into the top left corner. Beckler not able to stop it. That's 3-0 lead midway through the first half of this one. Roseville over the Bears. Just a few minutes later, a pass out right back to Thin Win, who makes it 4-0. As he'll get this one in there. So Thin Wind looking for a win for the Raiders. Second half now, White Bear with the corner kick eventually here. We'll get to a spinning ball. This one going right in front of the net. A Roseville player whiffs, and Connor Ehlers puts it past the goalie to put the Bears on the board. Now let's watch the Roseville goalie on this one. White Bear up on the far side. Goalie will eventually lay out right here, but Thomas Green will get that goal in. 4-2 now. White Bear Lake's making a bit of a comeback, but no luck for White Bear in the final minute of the second half. White Bear Lake falls to Roseville. The Bears have their first multiple goal game against the Raiders. Still looking for another game with more than a single goal, so they've only scored over one goal in one game this season. And after that loss, let's take a look at where White Bear Lake is in the standings. A good thing that is, that they aren't the worst in their conference. They have a 1-2-1 conference record, and they're 2-5-2 overall. As you can see, Stillwater really running away with that with a 9-1-1 record. But now we'll get away from a sport where you kick it with your feet to where you spike it with your hands. Let's see how Tartan did against Sibley. This one courtesy of Town Square Television. This one at Sibley High School. And Tartan will start out this one strong, 7-3 here after a hit from Sibley just barely goes out of bounds. Tartan with a 4-point lead. Now Sibley got it tied up at 13 apiece. Tartan strikes back with a big hit from number 11, Alice Merstuin. That one falls in the Sibley side. It's now 14-13 lead. Tartan over Sibley. Now Sibley trails by one later in the set. Serve across. Tartan with the hit. Block attempt for Sibley. Ball just barely still alive, and they get the point to tie it up 21 apiece. This one's turning into a nail biter for the first set. Now Sibley will eventually pull ahead, match point here. Tartan hits it too hard, eventually out of the back of the court. And Sibley takes the first set 22-25. Tartan had the lead through most of the set, but Sibley really pulled away with the win there in the end. So 1-0 Sibley over Tartan, best of 3. Moving to the second set, this one all Sibley at the beginning. Sibley serves it over, a crucial mistake as Tartan finds it in the net, 7-1 Sibley. Now we'll take you surprisingly, Tartan will come back, and a big hit is blocked out of bounds by Sibley. That ties the game up, 22-22. Now powerful hit here, and Tartan will tie this one 25-25 apiece. It's up to 25, got to win by 2. Now Sibley just barely sneaks out a win, as you'll see Tartan able to control on a Sibley kill for the 27-25 lead. 2-0 now. Can Tartan come back from this huge hole that they're in against Sibley? But let's see, Tartan will able to sneak ahead with some help from this big hit from Alexandra Lyle. They actually have a 6-point lead over Sibley, 18-12 now. Now Tartan eventually puts the ball over for game point. A bad set from Sibley puts the ball to the floor, and Tartan forces a 4th set with a 25-18 win in the 3rd. Can they come back? Tartan will keep this 4th set pretty close. Sibley with the bad hit here, and they go straight into the net. Makes it 9-9. This one's all tied up in set number 4. Tartan staying in the game, coming with a couple back-to-back key blocks. The score will eventually be 23-17. Only down by 6 now in the 4th set. Now the libero hits it over. Tartan controls the ball, but Sibley wins the 4th set here after a nice spike. Just eventually falls in on the other side. That's 25-19. 3-1. The Spartans are victorious. They're super excited for that win. And for some reason, a little student section runs on the court. I didn't think it was that big of a game between Sibley and Tartan, but Sibley seems to think so. But nonetheless, nice win by Sibley. Let's not stop with the highlights right here. Let's go to Roseville versus the Stephanie Blanda-led North St. Paul Polars. Courtesy of CTV and 623 Productions, 2 undefeated teams coming into this game. One team has to lose. Now it's always a good rivalry between Roseville and North St. Paul. North takes an early 3-0 lead with a Roseville spike that goes out of bounds. And now this one, North keeps their lead going with a monstrous spike by Lauren Stedman, one of the main Polars hitters, that makes it 19-19. The Polars end up getting an easy win with the first set with a score of 25-14. Now good block by the Polars. Roseville starts out with a nice lead in the second set. The Polars failed to block their second chance. It's 4-1 Raiders. Now the Polars are forced to fight back. Lauren Stedman puts one down to get within 4. Polars will go on a 13-2 scoring run. Stedman really hard to defend with just another spike just inside the line right here. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get that one on camera, but it sure fell in. And North St. Paul takes that one 25-19. Selena Rodriguez eventually making her contribution in the 3rd set. Closeout contest, and it would stay close throughout this one. This one will eventually be blocked out of bounds by the Polars to make it 9-9. Let's see if Roseville can win a set right here. Now a hard serve for Roseville, but the seasoned Polars control it, and they send it back. It's 15-13 now. Perfectly placed spike. Polars still barely in the lead. Polars will pull ahead near the end. Big spike here from Tally Martinez, another familiar name. Libero returning a great spike from the Roseville Polars. This one eventually sending it back to Selena Rodriguez. She'll get the final kill for the Polars. It's a 25-20 win. Started out with the Polars dominating. Roseville really made it competitive throughout, but North won all 3 sets. Polars look to stay strong, still undefeated on this season. Let's take a look at where this North Polars team is in the standings in the Metro East. Now sitting at 2-0 in the Metro East Conference. They are 10-0 overall. As I talked about, Coach Stephanie Blanda has this team absolutely rolling. And Iowa commit Kendra Hansen is not enough to make this Matamidi a good team this year, as they have a 1-1 conference record. However, they're 2-8 overall. Isn't that crazy? Matamidi has been one of the greatest volleyball teams around this area for quite some time, and they're 2-8 overall. The team's fallen on some hard times. Let's hope they can really turn this ship around. Without further ado, as I talked about, it's a highlight-packed show. Let's get to the Ponies versus White Bear Lake Bears. This one at White Bear Lake South Campus Gym. A lot of action from White Bear Lake. Always a powerhouse In the Suburban East, the Ponies are. This started out all Stillwater. Lucy McNamara spikes one hard, 5-0 first set. Ponies over. Now White Bear Lake just couldn't handle the Stillwater Ponies. This one sent over by Brianna Corey gives them a 15-6 lead in the first set. Ponies over the Bears. Now White Bear tried and tried, but Stillwater was there each time for the block, and they win the first set 25-12. Let's see how White Bear Lake would sit in the second set. Stillwater always looking strong. The beginning of the second set shows the Bears with their first lead is spiked by one of their tallest players, Courtney Moy. She starts with the Bears leading 1-0. Little do we know that would be their only lead of the match. That lead didn't last long. Stillwater's there again. This one a block on a big hit from the Bears. Bears are able to control a tricky one, but they return it. They hit it out of the back of Stillwater, and that's a 25-14 win in the second set for the Ponies. Not looking too good for White Bear Lake. Now Stillwater goes 3-0 to start out the third set. Still not looking good for the Bears after an ace from Stillwater. The Bears try to keep it close. They did come in within 4 points. Courtney Moore eventually right here again will get that spike. Gets it over the net. Almost unreadable for the Ponies as it hits the net. It's 10-5 now. Now Stillwater wins it on another mistake for the Bears. Spike goes out of bounds. It's a 25-15 win in that third set. That sends the Ponies to the victory aisle, 3-0. A tough night for the Bears. That Stillwater team just way too good at volleyball. But you got to give props for White Bear Lake for staying in it. Now after that loss, White Bear Lake is 3-4 overall. That game against Stillwater was their first conference game of the season, so they're 0-1 in conference, 3-4 overall. They take on conference foe Forest Lake tomorrow night. All right, folks, you know, it's been 2 weeks, and I've had time to scour all the lines, all the stat lines, check out all your Fab Four sports. But let's get into my athletes of the week. All right, for my male athlete of the week, I really didn't have to look too hard. You know, I broadcasted this game, and this was sophomore defensive back and wide receiver who just dominated. If you can't guess from the earlier highlights, it's Dorian Singer out of Tartan. He had 2 interceptions, one of which was returned for that awesome touchdown about 80 yards, as well as a beautiful catch for a touchdown, overcoming the defender. Have a day, young man. You have a bright future ahead of you, and I'm excited to see where you're at during your senior year. Now, for my female athlete of the week, I have to go with White Bear Lake soccer player, junior forward, Kayla Anderson. And now in a 9-1 win over Forest Lake on the 13th of this month, she scored not 1, not 2, not 3, but 6 goals. That's a very impressive day. Have a day, young woman. You know, so congratulations to you two, and I look forward to seeing who are my athletes of the week in 2 weeks from now. But for now, that's it for my athletes of the week. All right, you know, at SEC TV, we always have you guys covered with lots of sports, lots of highlights, and lots of game coverage. So let's look at our upcoming broadcast. On September 20th on TST, we have St. Thomas Academy versus Matamidi boys soccer. That's Town Square Television, as well as on Valley Access Television. I will be with Ted LaRue broadcasting that Stillwater versus White Bear Lake game. So, you know, it's going to be quite the rivalry, as well as really excited to call that game. And on the 25th, we got some girls soccer versus Mounds View, White Bear Lake. And then we got Tartan versus North St. Paul, as North St. Paul continues to be fantastic on the volleyball side of things. And now for football, we have Matamidi on the 28th taking on South St. Paul. Normally that's a heated rivalry. Those two are at the top of the conference, but South St. Paul really not playing well at all this year, and Tartan blew them out as well. So Matamidi, you know, they'll likely win that game. In our next Sports Pass on October 3rd, I'd like to thank you guys all for joining me here tonight, and I'd like to wish you all good night for me and everybody else here at SEC TV.